So another cop got his butt kicked the other day. We're going to talk about that and some other things for a minute. Howdy. Welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I am Steve Smith. A young, used to be cop, ex-cop, don't know why he left, but he left at a fairly young age. Got his butt whipped royally the other day, trying to do something that he was ill-equipped to do, but thought that he was up to the job, and that's the problem. I'll tell you the scenario on this, and it's pretty typical to a lot of others that had happened. It kind of fits in with the cop who got killed here about a week and a half ago, who was surprised because reality came up and bit him right in the ass. Reality that he wasn't ready for, and I don't mean to speak ill of him. I'm sorry as the dickens that it happened. I'm sorry for his family, but if you're not ready, bad things happen, and they affect not just you, but other people in your life. So back to this youngster who thought he had what it took the other day. And I know that I'm getting a little bit, this is probably just going on Patreon because I'm going to get pretty straight on this. A guy that used to be a cop around here, a young guy, you can tell by looking at him that he probably should have been in computer repair, was shopping at Home Depot. And he heard some commotion and somebody yelling, their loss prevention person, I guess, yelling about somebody was stealing something. So he saw this woman pulling some kind of tote out in the parking lot, and the loss prevention guy said, she's stealing that. So he goes into action, right? And he told the he told the news while they were talking to him, and his face is all beat to dickens, and he looks sad as can be. He says, my police training kicked in, and I knew that I should do something. So I went out there, and I confronted her, and I put my arm around her neck, and not a choke, he assured us, not a choke. I didn't put any pressure on her, but kind of a brace, and he showed how he put his arm around the top of her chest, I guess. And I took her to the ground, and I was holding her down and saying, "What's going on? What's going on?" My gosh. Guess what? Reality came and started kicking him in his head. That's right. Yeah, she had another guy that was with her, of course, waiting in the car, and he came over and saw this youngin' out there not knowing what in the world he was doing. Didn't have a clue as to what was going on in the world around him, so he started playing soccer on this young ex-copper's head. Yeah, and just beat this kid bloody, and then they took off. So this youngster comes on the news thinking he's a hero, and whining and complaining about, I even forget what he said. It was so silly. There are so many lessons here. I've already sent this to my student and said, get back to the lessons here. So maybe I shouldn't say the lessons in here. It'll give her a heads up, and she should work on that on her own. But I will cover a few things. First off, this is so typical. Now, this happened in the suburbs, and I'm going to go back again and say this. This would not have happened in the city, because down in the city, they are always ready to go, okay? And we were always, nobody would have got a jump on a cop down there in the city. Because you understood the world around you. You understood, like I said in my video a couple of days ago, that the whole world was ready to kill you if you gave them a chance. And that didn't mean just the one who was in your face at the time. It meant the whole world, and you had better keep your eye on what's going on and be able to address everything. I think that may have been my student getting back with her answer on those lessons. I'm not sure. We'll see. So this kid goes out and he says, my police training kicked in. I tell you, there's something sad about that, because it probably did. because they train these guys now, instead to kick ass, they teach them to go out there and be able to, now here's this fancy hold that we're going to teach you. It came from some BS, worthless jujitsu crap. And that doesn't mean that jujitsu is worthless. There is good jujitsu and there is not good. Okay, there's sport jujitsu. If you start trying to use sport jujitsu on the street, you're going to get your ass handed to you every time. But we're going to teach you these little secret moves and these little secret holds and stuff, so that you're going to be able to subdue these super bad guys without hurting them, because that's important. You know, we don't want to hurt the bad guys. We want to be able. We should have to be able to deal with these things, not hurting them physically, but probably not hurting their feelings either. So now we got this youngster out there who's got his ass waxed and thinks he's a hero. And probably everybody is telling him what a great job he did. I got a call shortly after that by a friend of mine who is in the security business. And he says, Craig, I let that go. That's what friends know me by, not Steve. They know me as Craig. He said, Craig, you have to go out there and start teaching these guys, you know, about the streets and how to handle themselves. And I laughed and I said, you know what? I've offered a couple times, and I've had a couple of different agencies approach me about teaching defensive tactics. But they want me to teach. Well, first off, they ask me, okay, now, show us what you're going to teach them. Show us what you're going to teach our officers. And I'll show them. And they go, oh, no. Oh, we can't have that. Oh, no, we cannot be teaching our officers to do that. And I said, well, I'll teach them what will get them home, not get them hurt. And what you're teaching is going to get them hurt because it doesn't work. And the only people who thinks that it does work is those who have never been in a situation where they've had to try it. Otherwise, they'd know different. But you guys making the decisions out there, most of whom have spent the last 20 years in the office, have no clue as to what's going on in the streets. And so you don't know. And you're of course, mostly concerned with your next promotion and your pension and what looks good. You know, what you can go out on some news item and say, we are providing our officers with the very latest in defensive techniques that not only keeps them and our citizens safe, but protects the integrity of the blah, 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 right? I tell you, cops now know how to talk instead of fight, at least in the suburbs, okay? And that's what we're talking about. And the reason that I address these things in the suburbs, and like I say, this wouldn't happen down in the city. You were expected, you know, if you couldn't take care of a situation, you were in the wrong job and you didn't last very long. But what we're talking about in the suburbs, where the vast majority of people are now living, except in jam-packed cities, you know, and this is what my buddy told me, the one who called me today. He says, you know, the problem is that these people in the suburbs don't have a clue that this kind of stuff is moving out on them. This kind of stuff is moving out into their areas. It's coming out from the cities. It's bubbling up, and people are getting robbed and beaten, and that includes the cops. And if you don't have cops who can protect themselves, how in the hell are they going to protect you? Right? Back to that little officer who's no longer an officer apparently, but was wearing a police flag T-shirt, the Thin Blue Line T-shirt, because apparently he still thought of himself as law enforcement. And even the public relations guy on the police department says, well, you know, once a cop, always a cop. Boo-hoo. That's a bunch of crap, you know. Being a cop is a state of mind, and most of these guys didn't have the state of mind when they went into it. So they never were, even when they were wearing the uniform. They might have been ticket writers, and they might have been report takers, and they might have been butt kissers, but they weren't cops. Ooh, I just went into rant territory, I guess, didn't I? Yeah, this is definitely only going on Patreon. So he's out there, and I even forget what I was going to say. I've probably said enough about this young yahoo, but it's happening all over the place. Oh, yeah, yeah. Who knows why he left, but I remember, and I might have mentioned this long ago on some video, I was talking to some officer, and they were talking about how short of officers they were, and I said, well, he says, we're getting a new academy class out here in a month, and we hope that we keep most of them. And I said, well, why wouldn't you keep most of them? He says, well, once they get out here, as soon as they get into a fight, oh, look, looks like a big chopper coming over here. Oh, are they keeping an eye on? Yeah, there they are. Oh, two of them. I thought that sounded a little loud. Actually, it sounds like it might be three. Yeah, it's three. Three big Chinooks flying very low, going right over. Interesting times. So anyway, you guys just missed them. They just went east. He says, well, they get out on the street and maybe they get in a scuffle and they find out that this just isn't what the job they thought they were getting into, and they quit. Well, hopefully they're out selling insurance or being financial advisors or something, because that's what they're better suited for. This world needs a few more badasses to go out there and show the bad guys, where the line is. And that's what I used to tell people. When you go in to be a cop, you need to be meaner and tougher than the people out there who think that they're mean and tough to be able to keep them down. And I'll go into more of that maybe on another one. I don't know. Anyway, this transcends into how this applies to you on a daily basis and how it applies to in a catastrophic situation. On a daily basis, bad stuff happens all the time, and it is happening more and more frequently and in areas where it didn't used to happen. Okay, so it's going to happen, and it might happen to you. And if you don't know how to handle yourself, let me put it this way. If you don't know how to handle yourself, you have made the conscious decision, even though you don't think you have. You think you just haven't addressed it. You have made the conscious decision not to assume responsibility for your own safety and to leave that up to a bunch of strangers who may or may not be around and may or may not be up to the job. And as we see more and more of them are not up to the job. Okay? Your personal safety is your responsibility. The cops, usually, they'll get there, clean up the mess, write a report about it, and maybe find out who did it. Which helps you how? Okay. So this is happening more and more. As things get worse, whether it's a situation like I write about in my books, in which it's just going to go totally berserk pretty quick, or in a controlled devolution like we're seeing here with the economy being brought down, and you're going to see a rise, not just because it's kind of a part of economics, but people are going to start getting, and they already are getting, more short-tempered. They're going to be running out of money. It's going to give the gangbangers and the people on the edge kind of a feeling that they can go out there and do what they want. And, of course, the more cops whose asses they kick is going to, give them a better, a feeling that they can go out and get away with more. Because, even when they do get caught, so what? They get thrown in jail for a few hours till they bail out. And while they're in there, they're doing pretty well as the guy who kicked a cop's ass, right? Hey, you're getting applause as they walk in, okay? You need to know how to handle yourself. And I'll tell you what, that goes beyond how to shoot a gun. There's a lot of people out there that think they're pretty slick on the range, okay? They're pretty slick, thinking they're tough, shooting holes in paper targets. They've never had much, if any, violence come up in their face, and so they are not ready for it. And so, like I said, if you're not ready, if you haven't prepared yourself for this, it's your fault. Okay? It is your fault. You need to accept and assume the responsibility for your own safety. And that means being able to handle yourself even short of a gun. Because if you handle a simple assault with a gun and you kill him, guess where you're going? You're not going, well, yeah, you'll go on the news. you're going to jail. So you better be able to do something short of killing somebody. Okay. So what's my advice on this? My advice is, for all you cops out there who haven't gotten us squared away yet, and for everybody who thinks that self-defense is just a game, up to you. Whatever. You make your decision. You need to get yourself tuned up and say violence is a potential part of life, and you need to get ready to take care of it. You need to learn about it, and you need to toughen yourself up, and you need to develop your skills and abilities so that when it happens, you can take it home to the one who tries to bring it to you. Okay? And you know what happens then? You wax his butt, and then he might not try it on the other. I had a saying on the rare occasion when I used to have young cops ride with me, and they didn't usually have youngsters come out and ride with me. I wasn't an FTO because I wasn't the poster kind of cop. I was a ghetto cop, and we did things there that they wouldn't put on posters. But I would tell those young guys, I said, if anybody swings on you, you don't let it go. You don't let it go. Anybody takes after you, you respond in such a way, and I'll be real careful how I say this, you respond in such a way that they will never, ever even consider swinging on another cop. Because you have that responsibility, not just to the people who are hoping you get home tonight. You have that responsibility to the next cop they run into. And if you show them that they can swing on a cop and nothing happened to them very bad, okay, that next cop might not be as ready as you were. And he might get killed. And his wife may be a widow, and his kids may be without a father. And you know whose fault that was? That was yours. Because you didn't step up at the time that the universe put you in the spot to do something about it. Okay. I am just getting so disgusted with the state of some, of not all. There are some great law enforcement people out there, and I am proud to see some of these guys making their videos about standing up against these unconstitutional restrictions that we're seeing. There are some great ones out there, but there are some people that wouldn't have lasted a month back when I was on, because they wouldn't be held up, they wouldn't be accepted. They acted like this, they'd get back to the station and nobody talked to them. Or they'd make fun of them so much that they'd leave. And some of you might think that that's cruel. It's not. It's a violent world, it's a tough-ass world, it's a badass world, and if you ain't up to it, bad things are going to happen, not just to you, but the people dependent on you. So, how do you do this? I guess this is running on and on. I could probably talk about this for all day. But, how do you do this? How do you get yourself squared away? You find somebody who runs a tough fight program. And I don't mean fighting for sport. I do not mean that. I don't care if this ain't boxing, this ain't wrestling, this isn't cage fighting, although that comes closer. Okay, this isn't point karate. This is somebody who knows the streets and will teach you how to stay alive and get yourself home, not get yourself hurt with a bunch of tricky little moves that don't work in the real world. Okay, so I was going to say that I hope I haven't offended anybody out there, but I don't care. For those who are offended, you probably ought to be offended. Okay, you just go take your little offended butt, somewhere and get all boo-hooey, and show it to your buddies who feel like you and say, well, this guy's he's just a dinosaur, he's just a Stone Age, it's a good thing he's not on anymore. We don't need that kind of guy. Well, I'll tell you what, you need the kind of guys that'll get out there and be able to take care of some business. Or that business is just going to flow over you, and you're going to wonder what the heck happened even while it's happening. So I think I went into stuff here that I hadn't started out to get into, but it just came out, as sometimes happens. And you all give that some thought. And if you want to get squared away, you find somebody who has been in it. Not somebody who walks around their dojo in some white pajamas and has got a black belt with a bunch of stripes on it, Find somebody who's been in the real world and understands the practical application of directed violent force. So with that, adios, and have a good day. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.